Welcome to the Daily Chores activity. Many of the modern conveniences we take for granted today were not available in the 1880s. Can you think of some modern conveniences we have today that were not available back then? Things like electric laundry machines, conventional heat and air conditioning, microwaves, electric stove, dishwashers, vacuum cleaners are just a few examples of appliances we have today that were not available or were very expensive. Large grocery stores, shopping malls, and airports were not even invented yet. People had to do their chores in order to keep clothes on their back, food on their table, and a warm and comfortable house. Both boys and girls had their share of chores and responsibilities. Churning butter, milking cows, raising chickens, washing laundry, making your own soap and bread, hunting and fishing are just some examples of how family members would spend their day in order to help the household. Children would have to do their chores before and after school. Churning butter was actually how the family would have fresh butter every day. They would milk a cow, bring the milk over to the butter churner, and just churn butter until it was actually solid and they could use it. And that was a long process. It could take over an hour depending on how much butter they needed. How many of you help do laundry? If you help do laundry, you know it takes over an hour and a half to complete a load of laundry with modern conveniences. Imagine having to wash your clothes by hand though. How much longer do you think that would take? Let's just see how hard or easy it would be to do your clothes in the 1880s by hand. So you have to take a piece of clothes and you want to wet it in soapy water. And the way you get this water soapy is by taking your homemade bar of soap, because you couldn't just go to the grocery store and buy liquid or powder soap. That didn't exist yet. So what you would do is you would make a bar of soap out of lye, and then you would just scrub it on the washboard until you created little suds. And then you take your piece of clothes and you just rub up and down on the washboard. And once you're done scrubbing it, what you want to do is take out some of that water, because you're going to come over to the clean water and you're going to rinse it to get all that soap out of there. Now, you either had to squeeze all that water out by yourself, or if you were lucky, you had a wringer that would take all the excess water out. And the way you do that is by taking the piece of clothes and putting it between here, but you have to be a little slow, otherwise your fingers will go through. And you just take the handle and you kind of slowly feed it through. And what you'll see in a little bit is the water come out of the bottom of the dress. And then you take some clothespins, because you don't have dryers either, and you just put the clothes up in the heat of the day in order to get them to dry. Now, because you have to make your own soap, there's a couple of things you have to consider. Do you want your soap to have a pretty color, or do you just want plain soap? So if you want your soap to have color, you would add vegetables that would stain. Things like beets or carrots. If you want your soap to have a nice smell to it, you can add zesty fruit like oranges or lemon or flowers. Think of roses. So when you're doing chores at home, just remember how much easier it is to do chores now than it is 150 years ago, where you had to do everything by hand.